Alrighty, this is part 4 of motivation. We're talking about sexual orientation here with motivation. So, what is sexual orientation? Sexual orientation is the enduring sexual attraction towards others. Let's say others, and others includes members of one's own group or members of the other sex. So sexual orientation is whether or not you have an enduring sexual attraction. So a sexual orientation, one instance of being attracted to a male or a female, depending on what gender you are, is not your sexual orientation. The key here, right, is that it's enduring. So keep that in mind when we're talking about sexual orientation. How do personal values play in a sexual orientation? I mentioned briefly in an earlier video about this. Personal values have very low correlation between, almost none actually, between personal values and your sexual orientation. For instance, when we talk about sexual behavior, like having premarital sex or cohabitation with your partner before marriage, churchgoers are a third less likely to cohabitate before marriage, have fewer sexual partners, etc. But the churchgoers are almost just as likely, if not exactly as likely, to be gay as churchgoers. So the personal values don't play a role, as the data that we have right now shows. So some questions about the origins of sexual orientation, because everybody wants to know, how does this happen, right? Especially those who are unfamiliar with it. So a couple questions to ask yourself. Is homosexuality linked with problems in a child's relationships with parents? Does homosexuality involve a fear of hatred of people of the other gender? Is sexual orientation linked with levels of sex hormones currently in the blood? And as children, were many homosexuals molested, seduced, or otherwise victimized by adult homosexuals? These are all questions and things that people have maybe cherry-picked or lobbed or tried to, point towards reasons why somebody might have a particular sexual orientation. But the answers to all of this is no. There's no data to support any of these as being true. No children, there's not linked with bad relationships across the board. It's not linked with fear or hatred of others. It's not linked with sex hormones currently in the blood. And as children, they weren't molested necessarily. So could any one of these have happened to somebody who's gay or a lesbian? Yes. But is there data to show that there's any correlation between the two? No. So what is? So let's look at some different ways of looking at it. So same-sex attraction in animals. So let's look at animals other than humans. There's some bit of research and there's a bit of data to support that other animals are attracted to the same sex in certain instances with certain types of animals. For instance, famous penguins from the zoo in New York were attracted to each other. But remember that animals don't. When we talk about sexual attraction, we're talking about psychological attraction along with social attraction. I think we mentioned 2 videos ago maybe about how it all plays together. Well, with animals, we're really just looking at the biological component of it. So with humans, there's a bio, psycho, and a social component. With animals, it's just the biological component. So it's not complex in that. But if you're looking at it from a biological standpoint, there are some animals who show homosexual tendencies. So the brain and sexual orientation. Do people who are gay have different, or lesbian have different brain structures? And there's actually some research to show that some parts of gays and lesbians do have a slightly larger brain structure than others. In the what is it in? I can't remember what it's in. I'm sorry, but it's there's a slightly larger brain structure, and so there are some differences that we can see at least in one part. It's in the hypothalamus. I can't remember what it is exactly in there though. And what about genes and sexual orientation? Does appear that homosexuality does slight trends to run in families. Not very strong. So there's plenty of times where there's homosexuality where it doesn't run in families, but there's a slight increase in families. And then also identical twins are also somewhat more likely to be gay or lesbian. Um, but when we say something is somewhat more likely, there's also lots and lots who aren't. So what that shows us is that it's probably a lot more than just biology that's playing into it. Because if it was just biology, identical twins would be at every time, right? I mean, identical twins are like our gold standard to test biology and stuff like that because they have the exact same biological makeup. So it's got to be more than just biology. So we can't say it's just something. There's other factors somewhere along the line that are playing some sort of role in there. And then I mentioned earlier current levels of hormones, but prenatal hormones here, prenatal, there is some research to show that fetuses that were flooded with testosterone at a particular critical period between the second and the fifth months of development, that they have a higher tendency to be more gay or lesbian if they're women, or vice versa. And so, pre-birth hormone levels can have been shown to maybe play a role in sexual orientation. So, those are some ways to look at it, right? The jury's still out on this, right? What is the exact, how does it play? We don't know. We know that most things in psychology are a mix, right? It's bio, psycho, social. There's usually a mix of a lot of different things that come together to answer most questions. Here's kind of a quick, summary. So on average, various biological traits of gays and lesbians fall between those of straight men and straight women. Tentative findings, some need of replication, and here we go. So brain asymmetry is greater in straight men and lesbians. Asymmetry means one side's bigger than the other. In straight, it's usually the right side of your brain is usually a bit bigger than the left side, interestingly enough. And in gay and lesbian, they're more equal sized. Gosh darn it, why did I do that again? The hypothalamus is straight. Oh, so it's just a cell cluster. I was trying to come up with a name, but it's just a cell cluster in the hypothalamus. But they both react to the hypothalamus both reacts to the hormones the same way. Shared sexual orientation is higher among identical twins than among fraternal twins. That's what we said. And then, so this is some couple of brain differences may contribute. All of these different things, there's been shown to be differences in gays, lesbians, and straight. So that's all we've got here for sexual orientation. Again, think of things in the biopsychosocial approach. Everything kind of fits together. There's not ever one silver bullet that can answer all these questions. So that's all we've got for now. Thanks.